Well, good morning, councillors, staff, media and members of the public gallery. Federation Council wishes to advise members of the public that council meetings will be recorded and will be available after each meeting on the council's website. All care will be taken to maintain the privacy of those in attendance. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event your image is broadcast. This includes any filming by television cameras if attendance is approved by the General Manager or Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today, the Bangarang people, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who now reside in this area. I extend that respect to elders past and present of Bangarang nations. Number 3, apologies and applications for leave of absence by councillors.
We don't have any apologies, Mr Mayor, but we do have an application for leave of absence from the March Policy Resource meeting and the March Council meeting and the March workshop from Councillor Andrew Candy being on holidays.
I will move for that apology. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. All in favour? Against, carried. 3.1 apologies. There be none.
3.2 you've already done.
I'm sorry, 3.2. 4 confirmations of minutes of the last meeting. Can I have a move for that, please? Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Against, carried. 5 disclosures of interest. There be one there, Mr General Manager.
Yeah, Councillor Kennedy's declared a pecuniary interest in item 9.4, being the tender assessment report, request for tender 19/108, Urena Aquatic Centre, Leisure Centre and Jetty, as he submitted a tender for that job, so that one will be tabled with us.
Thank you.
Got any others?
Would someone like to move that one, please? Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Meagle. All in favour? Against, carried. Mayoral minute, there be no items, so we will now move on to item number 7, the General Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors. The report 7.1 is an update report on the new Kaiwera swimming pool complex, just to provide council with some occurrences since the tender was awarded at the October 2019 council meeting to Hines Construction. So, in order to get that project moving as quickly as possible, council made the decision earlier than that, of course, to go in and demolish the old pool. So as the councillors are aware, that's all occurred. The pools are gone, the amenities building, pump room and clearing and readying of the sites all occurred. The council will be aware that they also went through a D&C process for that tender at Design and Construct, which on awarding the tender, the contractor now commences the detailed design within that complex. So that's moving along quite well. It's been project managed and ran through our engineering department, headed up by Steve Carmichael, our director. So that's probably around 80 to 90% finalised. The approval process is where we've hit a bit of a delay in that it has to go through, which we're aware of. It goes to the Joint Regional Planning Panel. However, that panel has had a reformation, so that basically state government have reappointed members to that committee across the state. So that's incurred, unfortunately, a couple of months delay in what we would have envisaged would have been a more speedier approval process. And we've also got a submission has come in on that, which does mean that the panel do meet and determine that application. So a couple of things there quite unfortunate in terms of delays. However, the pool is still scheduled to, we're looking at a scheduled commencement around April next year, and being an indoor facility as part of that, we're still confident we'll get some good usage through next winter especially. And we'll be doing some communication now just to make sure the public are fully aware and can make plans, of course, through the following summer that's ahead of us. So, report there. Any questions or comments? The recommendations, just to note it.
Can I get a mover, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the council, along with the communities, naturally disappointed that it's not going to be open by the scheduled time, and there are circumstances outside the council's control. I hope and the fact that the report's been now made public is good to note, so because there will be questions asked as to why it's not going to be ready by the foreshadowed time. So it is disappointing. I am also disappointed that perhaps some community self-interest have delayed unnecessarily the project, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is, and hopefully we can still get a good outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Megwin. I think it's important to note on those points you made that the council put every step in place to make it happen on time with the demolition, etc. So now with the delays, it's just important to get a good product at the end that we're all proud of. Any further comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
7.2 is our merger implementation plan and Stronger Communities progress report. So this comes back to council for regular updates. 6 monthly reports are required into the Office of Local Government on our expenditure across the merger grants and the subsequent grants that continued after that. So quite a detailed report running through the progress. There's been some significant projects undertaken early in the piece, as well as continuing some of our major projects, being the pool and some other big council projects such as the new local environmental plan, our new rate system, our long-term financial plan, the list goes on. Very detailed report for councillors' information and also an attachment there, but we're confident that the projects are all moving ahead in a manner that's worthy of some of their size. So the report's there for information and notation. Progress to the end of December.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
It's all good. I do actually have a few questions for our General Manager in and around this particular document that's been presented to us today. So I'll start off with the LEP. If you can give us a update on how the LEP is looking and the time frame with the LEP.
Yeah, so the LEP the contract was awarded to GHC to undertake that project. They're doing they've done some initial consultations and preparing background documents. I spoke with our director, Susan, who may want to comment a bit more detail on the update. It was scheduled for finalisation, or at least a draft document by around June this year. But obviously it's a major piece of work, and so we're eager to see how it's going. Have you got any updates?
Yep. Thank you. The consultants will prepare presenting to the next workshop in March regarding the issues paper and the local strategic planning statement. That has to go out on exhibition by June, so you will be seeing that next month, and that will make up a large part of the workshop.
Okay. Excellent.
And we have had some good interest and input into that. It's a great chance for any sort of development ideas and that to come forward as part of the public process. So we have had some good interest in opportunities around rezoning, but we're also looking pretty closely within our own staff about future service expansions into towns like Mulwala and Cora and Howlong, and making sure we can more strategically plan for the growth across those towns.
Just a couple more points of call. We've also, as part of the Stronger Communities Fund, was the Kiffins Reserve improvement. You've got an expectation date here of July 20, and I do believe that time frame has been pushed out. The scope of works, I've mentioned it a couple of times now, it doesn't seem to be progressing at all. Is that due to...
Yeah, I will take that one on notice.
Yeah.
The Kiffins Reserve one and get some information. I don't know whether Steve would have anything offhand on
just
Kiffins.
on that, well, scope of works, I understand it's been done. The problem is getting the heritage and archaeological studies approved, and we've run into all sorts of problems there.
I always kind of envisaged too that just in discussion with various stakeholders and engagement for that particular precinct, there could be up to 11 parties that could be quite interested to have input on how that looks for that particular area. So I don't know whether we could...
Yeah, the only thing we've got funding for is the bike track, which was going to follow the existing road around.
Okay.
But even the existing road sits on some fairly sensitive sites. There's some, and that's where it's stalled at the moment.
But yeah, as far as an overall plan and management,
Yeah.
not part of this project, but absolutely
I
needed.
think that needs to
No,
come
I
in
just-
separate.
Yeah, or just something I should mention while we're talking about Kiffins Reserve is that the Kiffins Reserve recommended for management is still in draft form from 2013. I don't know whether that actually forms part of what you're thinking of for this particular area, but it certainly, needs to be brought to the table again when there's opportunity to do that. The other point of call is I just wanted some really defined the Rand Sports Ground upgrade, because it appears to me, when I'm looking through our business papers and some of the documents, it appears within the Stronger Communities Fund, and it also appears within the Stronger Country Community Funding Works. And if we can just have some thoughts on how that sits within both those projects with those funds, and is it for the same scope of works? Because the Rand Sports Ground is actually one of the considerations for round 2 for the drought funding as well. So is there some overlap going on that we need to consider?
So there's no duplication or what you'd call overlap, but there is a number of projects in and around, whether it be the amenities, the playground upgrades, the building itself, which has been a fairly long, drawn-out extension because of limited funding over the years. So pretty sure that these projects are all, they're certainly interrelated, but there's no doubling up of funding. But yeah, I understand with the rest of those ones, it probably should see the master plan fully implemented for out there. Yeah.
And just on that point of call, as you would know, that we are considering these round 2 drought projects. Was also we've mentioned that Oakland RV Park, and as you would be aware from Friday's meeting, we are considering about looking at that precinct there in Oakland as well. One thing we have talked about in the past was on the upside of what happened with the removal of a building in Oakland, is that was there opportunity for a development of a master plan for that precinct, and do we actually need that master plan before we deliver this next round of funding in that area?
Yeah, so the committee out there at Oakland's got their own plan drawn up, which fully covers that site where the building was. So it couldn't be adopted, obviously, because they had the building and we didn't own the land. So they basically had a plan in waiting, but it did encapsulate the fully designed and built RV park. But that already had its own plan because that was just our council land. The committee went ahead and showed a master plan right up to the end where the Anzac memorials are. So, and basically they showed within that site where that old building was, they showed a gazebo type central area. So it's time now for the committee, I guess finally the building's been cleared, it's in our hands, the committee could work with us, which we can, they're one of our committees, to look at that plan they envisage, and is that still the mix? So that drought fund allocation is really pretty broad, so well, here's an allocation because it does need a central area and refresh that, but the bulk of it's done, the plan.
So do we need the master plan in place for us to be able to deliver that drought funding to go into that area?
Well, that's for council to decide, yeah. It's not a massive, I wouldn't have thought it's a critical thing, it's not got the elements that, say, Cora Foreshore has, where you've got lots of stakeholders and groups. I don't think it's overly complex. And you wouldn't want to see, delay on it, but that's the council and the committee's view, I guess, too.
Thank you. Councillor Longley.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd like to congratulate council staff for the way they've proceeded to run these projects and complete them. And there's some significant work's been done. It's been a big year, and I think they've done a mighty job.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. We've certainly seen a lot of projects hit the ground and be opened in the last months. Councillor Mingle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to concur with Councillor Longley. When you have a look at the 61 projects that happened just on the implementation side of things that were, to all intents and purposes, from the community in-house and not seen, you don't realise the scope of works that the organisation has undertaken just in-house as part of the new merger. Then you add on another 20 or 30 major projects, and I think that certainly some of the more experienced councillors will struggle to remember a time when there have been that many major projects in that period of time. So it was always a question of capacity, of being able to deliver that. We all wanted them done in the first year. That wasn't going to happen, and we had to be a bit patient and realise that the council organisation was being under the pump in terms of delivering projects that we all wanted done at the drop of a hat, as well as its internal stuff, and as well as managing a whole heap of funding that came in a very short period of time. So duly noting the work that the council has done, notwithstanding that, we would all like to see them finished as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mingle. Any further questions? Councillor Longmire.
No question, Mr Mayor, just in regard to reflecting on what's happened since the opportunity came for a decision way back in October 2011, when some of us were summoned to Dubbo after the state election to look at the opportunity of amalgamation. And so what we've seen with our process in the amalgamation between the two former council areas, what a wonderful delivery of things, infrastructure that we're able to now to reflect on, and the state government did promise that, and they've come forward with that opportunity. And so to reflect on that is, because I've said it before, I was always an advocate on the opportunity to amalgamate somewhere, and I think for this instance there's so many people now reflecting in the communities that it's been a great success in regard to the funding that comes through from the state government. And so reflecting on that, I think it's good to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire. And I too want to comment on the, I can remember many meetings when we were all getting uptight about these projects going forward and whether we had the capacity to do that and deliver them. And we've been through so many reviews, etc. And the way that the council in general has stepped up and gone on top of those projects is absolutely amazing. I think they deserve a round of applause if that's appropriate. Okay, any further questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
7.3 is an information report again on Ballpark Caravan Park Master Plan, and separately but interrelated is the Cora Foreshore Structure Plan. So this just gives Council a broad update on where those two projects are up to. The report there talks in detail about both projects, but essentially the draft master plan's been to Council just on a workshop basis for Ballpark Caravan Park, and also a business case on that. The consultants appointed integrated site design back in late last year or towards the middle to end of last year. Had a view that we wouldn't consult broadly in the public phase until the Cora Foreshore Plan was to a stage where we could develop and exhibit that, so that the public didn't get confused or unsure about what they were doing. They've done their initial consultation with some user groups, quite a lot of sporting groups, on the overall foreshore plan, because it does involve a lot of organisations, sporting and otherwise. They're coming back towards the end of this month to do some more, finalise that stakeholder engagement work, but we feel with where Ballpark's got up to with the master plan, and councils have seen a fairly detailed idea about where that project could go. We probably feel now it's timely that we get the Ballpark master plan out on exhibition sooner rather than later, and the foreshore plan, we can message it well enough that the public will understand that whilst there may be some land that goes either way, I'm sure they'll understand where their submissions need to be directed to. So they're coming back to Council on the 24th to discuss with Council the findings from the overall foreshore plan, and I guess get a refresher off Council and particularly off staff about where the next steps lie for Ballpark now it's in that transition phase. There's been an enormous amount of work in there to get the park up to a standard where we could issue ourselves even an approval to run a park, as Council would be aware. So that's all occurred, and that's a credit to the staff right through the place at Ballpark especially. But nevertheless, we need to make sure we can activate and encourage that business in the transition between that and the fully funded and implemented master plan. So just making sure councillors, and off the back of this report, we can communicate pretty strongly out there to the community about where we're up to on both those major projects, because they do hold a lot of keys for Cora's growth in the region. So,
thank you. Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments, Councillor Longmire?
Yeah, just a question to Mr. Butler in regard to now the registration of all these sporting groups which within the precinct are identified.
yeah.
I know over a journey there was often talk about trying to unify that with cooperation as a group of the Ballpark sporting group users, should I say, as good as what those where opportunity is in Howland. That seems to work very well, Councillor Longley. So at the end of the day, it'd be something that we could keep somewhere and look at it, and or, go to these sporting groups and be in contact with them, consult with them, and see if there's something that can be identified in that regard.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think just the conversations that have come out, whether it be hockey, tennis, football, cricket, swimming, whatever it is, and some of the snippets of information they're sharing amongst each other about their futures, I think probably does open the light on a lot of those ideas. And I know that all those committees are all very busy people themselves, so they haven't had the chance to always look up and think what other sports might need around them, but this process could be or will be the start of that. But if there's a sports council or some advisory group off the back of that guides the future around our CBD area, especially around Cora, I think it'd be terrific. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. After having espoused how many projects we had on our plate, this one turned up a little bit unexpectedly. However, I believe that it has great interest from the community because it has the ability to be an economic game changer for this town and for this region. So it is going to be watched very closely by the community. So any communication about where we're up to and what we're doing will be certainly most eagerly anticipated, I think, because of the impact. A lot of traders commented that that the impact of not having Hall Park fully up functional over the last holiday period was noticeable, and it's going to be a little while before we can get it where it needs to be. So I think that any communication and a time frame to give people some idea of what's going to happen would be very much appreciated.
And I think just because, like we've mentioned, the sheer amount of projects that are already funded, there's previous grants gone out for boardwalks around there and potential pop-up retail shops or whatever. It's been public before, but the time moves so quickly that this foreshore plan was not about trying to dream up all these new projects and have the community hanging on these possibles. It was about capturing what is happening anyway and make the public more aware, especially the user groups. And then we had separate requests from football and others about more space and things. So it was mainly about trying to renew the 2010 or 12 foreshore plan that Cora had and take advantage of the new funding, but really trying to just make everyone aware of what is underway and previously committed to in one big piece, because it's so hard to, people can forget the media release that a grant and Greg Appleton was down there a few years ago, but that's gone and people come since then. So just want to make sure we don't promise a big wealth of new work. A lot of it's already in play, and some of it's just to get a bit of a more strategic view of it all. Yep.
Thank you. Any further comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
7.4 bushfire support report. So this is just working, with our industry as well, local government New South Wales and the various state agency and offices. Essentially, we've documented before our work and our support we did offer through, certainly the most intense period of those devastating events, but then ongoing messaging about what resources we could offer, support, etc. The information report there, which essentially comes out of our local government New South Wales, our combined councillors group. And the recommendation is that we acknowledge and thank the council's communities for the generosity shown in response to those events, to contact the local government bushfire recovery support group to outline what we can provide, and to endorse and encourage the use of the online service for trying to coordinate the donation and those goods as best we can. So it's essentially an information report. We are working in the background in our comms area to make sure we can assist, to try and streamline where we can to avoid a lot of that churn that can go on with those big events and trying to get the funding out. So.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
I'd just like to support the document and endorse the recommendation that's moved forward, because our communities, how lucky are we to live in a country, Australia, and have these communities that just with their heart on their sleeve and just give so generously. Like, it's just amazing, and not only here in our federation, but right across Australia and beyond our shores as well. I really thought the document actually really good, some really clear clarification and transparency and about the processes, and it was just really good to have something formal brought forward. And isn't it terrible that such an unforeseen natural disaster has taken that for this document to be produced? Let's hope we don't have to use it too often.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. If there's nothing more, I'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you, Mr Butler. We'll now move on to 8, the Director of Corporate and Community Services report.
Before Joe gets up, I just will have to flag that he will be leaving for another urgent appointment early in this report. We'll continue with the reports.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I will move quickly through these regular reports, just in light of the fact that I do have to depart for an emergency appointment. The first item is the statement of bank balances and reconciliation of cash reserves at 31st of January. It is recommended to you for noting.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
The next item is the scheduled investments as at the 31st of January 2020, so totaling $27 million. The report is recommended to you for noting.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Agenda item 8.3 is the quarterly budget review statement for the period ending 31st of December 2020. This provides an update on where council is tracking financially for the first 6 months of the financial year. Revenue and expenditure are generally on track, except for a couple of areas as identified in this report. In summary, there's an increase in grant funding with the $1 million of drought funding from round 1, additional roads to recovery funding as a result of being drought-affected areas. There's also increased revenue coming from the sale of council share in Southern Phones. There's an increase in operating expenditure in a number of areas to meet regulatory requirements, and that's particularly in relation to our management of waste and the Corowa Sale Yards operations. So the detail is contained there within the report.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Agenda item 8.4 relates to the Australia Day ceremony that was held in January on Australia Day in Howlong. So we were fortunate to have Andrew Heslop as our Australia Day ambassador speak at that event, and he spoke about his commitment to radio broadcasting during the bushfire emergencies and his social and community leadership with respect to him being a founder of Neighbour Day. The Australia Day Awards highlight, or they recognise and celebrate the young achievers, all achievers within our community, whether that's individuals, community organisations, projects or events that contribute to making Federation Council a great place to live. So I'd like to congratulate all those award recipients as detailed in the report for this year's Australia Day Award. The report is recommended to you for noting.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Law.
I'd just like to comment and congratulate the staff, the people of Howlong, Councillor Longley for his active input. It's such a wonderful place to have that ceremony. Even some of the people in Howlong didn't know that memorial park was there, and it was a credit to the council to have the ceremony there.
Thanks, Councillor Law. Was it Councillor Whitechurch?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd like to echo Councillor Law's comments. I think Howlong really raised the bar as far as the event went, and Councillor Longley put in a lot of time to make it happen. Without dampening the party, I just think we need to have a think about the next few years. Australia Day falls next year on a Tuesday, following year a Wednesday, the following year a Thursday, where there'll be 1 day holiday. We've been fortunate over the last few years to have it on a weekend and or a Friday or a Monday, so we've had long weekends. I'm just wondering whether it's going to have the same effect and be able to try and lift everybody for that 1 day off. And I think maybe before we get to that, we have a real look at what we do for Australia Day and whether the last 4 years have worked as successfully in each different town as we think they have or haven't.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Whitechurch. And also thank you, Councillor Longley. It was very special, and the little extras that were put in with the horses coming down to raise the flag, and the guest speaker was absolutely excellent. So thank you very much for that. Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Agenda item 8.5 is the periodic 6-month report of progress against the delivery program for 2019-20. So, as we've been talking about in this council meeting, there has been a significant number of projects progressed, and a number of these have been done in the last 6 months. There's a major capital works program, the commencement of the Corowa swimming pool, the Howlong Multi-Purpose Centre. Council has adopted a new developer contribution levy. We have the new tourism brand that we're looking at the implementation of. We've expanded our mobile preschool service. We've got a new internet platform to improve our internal communication. There's a range of events. So there's a significant range of activity that has been undertaken to progress the initiatives in the delivery program. And council officers look forward to continuing to deliver those and further ones in the remaining 6 months of this financial year. So the recommendation before you is to review the periodic report for the period ending 31st of December and to seek any clarification on any items if required, and that then the report be available publicly.
How exciting, what a great job. Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
I'd just like to congratulate the behind-the-scenes staff, because I found this document really easy to read, especially the visuals, especially, you had the graphs on the side and they were colour-coded, and we actually knew at a really quick glance, regardless of how many funds were sitting there, where that particular XYZ was up to. So congratulations, it was a great document to read.
I'll pass it on to
Yeah, please do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Anything further, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.6 relates to the business continuity policy that has been drafted by council officers and is now recommended to council for adoption. This articulates the intention and directions for management to ensure that we have a strategy to deal with business interruptions that may occur and may adversely impact on council's ability to deliver services to our community. So this is part of a business continuity framework, so it's just one component and sets the leadership for that framework. So the recommendation before you is that the policy be endorsed and adopted and be readily available for council staff through the council intranet.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longley and seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.7 relates to council's relationship with Miki City in Japan. At the December meeting of council, council did resolve to establish a Federation Council Miki City Advisory Committee. As a consequence, the terms of reference has been developed, which is contained within this report. So the primary purpose of this advisory committee is to provide strategic advice to council regarding how it can enhance the sister city relationship agreement with Miki City and Federation Council. It's proposed that the advisory committee have a number of members, including a councillor, a council staff or council officer, a Federation Youth Council member, at least 2 representatives that have participated in previous exchanges, and up to 6 community members. So the recommendation before you is to note the report on the establishment of the advisory committee and for council to adopt the terms of reference for the advisory committee, and also to nominate a councillor to be representative of council on that advisory committee.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Okay, councillors, any thoughts as far as a representative for that committee? Would you like to deal with that now, or is that something that... Yeah. Councillors, happy for anyone to put their hand up, but also happy to be on it too. So, Councillor Meagle, did you want to comment?
Just a quick comment, Mr Mayor. I think it's important that the Mayor be on that committee, especially in the relationship with Japan. The Mayor is highly rated as a member, so I think it's important that the Mayor... Could I nominate Councillor Law, who's been on that a couple of excursions and has quite a soft spot for Japan and its people, and that would be my recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Eagle. I'm sure Japan has a soft spot for Councillor Law as well. Councillor Law, would you accept that?
Yes, I will.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Councillor Eagle?
I'd like to second that.
Second that? Okay, so now we've got a mover. Well, we had a mover and seconder, so I'll put it now. All in favour? Against, carried. Oh, sorry. Happy with that? Yep.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Oh, thank you. That concludes. Thank you, Joe. Now we'll move on to the item number 9, the Director of Development and Environmental Services report. Thank you, Susan.
Mayor, item 9.1, council, is the building approvals that were done in the last month. I'm happy to take any questions.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, Councillor Longley.
January's figures are substantially down on the previous year. Is there anything obvious there that we're missing?
In terms of we've had, the previous months were exceptional, our turnaround times have reduced, and we didn't take a lot of construction certificate applications or CDCs in December.
And possibly a time to have a spell in January, councillor. If nothing else, I'll put it. Councillors, all in favour? Against, carried.
Thank you. Item 9.2, the development applications approved under delegation. Again, happy to take any questions.
Moved by councillor Meagles, seconded by councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? All in favour? Against, carried.
Item 9.3 is the regional estate certificate development applications that we have lodged at the moment. We have the 2 applications as have been reported for the last 3 months. The new panels have been appointed for the state, and we're hoping that the meeting will occur next month for those particular applications.
Thank you. Moved by councillor Kennedy, seconded by councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Law.
I've spoken to several of the council staff over the aquatic centre in Urana, and I'm still very concerned at the size of it and the facilities that it withholds. We did an inspection at the Urana Bowling Club of their lawn, or their bowling area where they're wanting to put down new artificial lawn, and I'm concerned the effect that centre is going to have on the bowling club. Now, there are only 300 people in Urana in 2011 anyway, by the statistics, and the bowling club is the main centre of entertainment for Urana. They have a very large memorial hall, and this area has a meeting room.
Councillor Law, if I could just interrupt for a second. I apologise for that. I think this is more relating to the next report.
All right, well, I'll...
Is that okay? Do you want to...
Yep, not a worry.
Just got to put this one.
So, if there's nothing further on that, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Councillors, item 9.4 is regarding the tender assessment for the project 19-108 for Urana Aquatic Centre, Leisure Centre and General Building. The recommendation is to refer to confidential due to the commercially corporate nature of the information provided in the report. Happy to take them.
Moved by councillor Longley, seconded by councillor Law. Comment, councillor Law?
Yeah, well, here we go again. I'm concerned about the size of this facility and the facilities that it withholds. As I've said, Urana have the bowling club, which is their main entertainment area with 300 people in the town. They have a very large memorial hall that has just had work done on it. And this facility is going to have a meeting room, a function centre and a gym with a kitchen. The kitchen size has been brought down a little, I believe, because it was to be a commercial kitchen. When we went and had a look at the Urana Bowling Club, they told us how important the bowling club is to them, that they hold their wakes there, they have receptions there, they have meals there. If this facility is to go ahead at the size that it is now, I feel that it's going to jeopardise the bowling club greatly. Most of these things that will be held in that facility are currently held in the bowling club, and I'm really concerned at the effect that it is going to have on the bowling club.
Thank you for your concern, councillor Law. Just a comment that, and I've made in the past, that a lot of these facilities that are put there for different reasons at the time, one being the Memorial Hall, X amount of functions a year, but it is in very good state, and the voluntary committee basically takes care of that facility. This aquatic centre building is about, we quote numbers, but if we quoted dollar figures that come into this council from that area, it certainly takes the numbers of the population out of the equation. But this facility is about capitalising on an investment on the water in that community, to grow the community, to consolidate all the services that they have. You've quoted a figure of 300 people, that's probably, I guess, the next census maybe 400 people, but it's not about sitting on the assets you have that have been there for many years and become stagnant to a point. We can always improve it, but if you've got a natural asset that is on water, is as successful as that area. I would certainly push to try and build something for our future. And only as recent as last week, what we've been talking about is other organisations coming into our area, spending their money and camping there. I've got a letter from a university in Sydney that want to bring students from Sydney and around the region to Urannah, to Lake Urannah, to camp at the Caravan Park and utilise a facility such as that, and the hall, and the bowling club, for their groups. And that alone is continuous for 3 years. It's about building robots and putting them on the moon and exploring them out the lake. So that's the sort of, I suppose, audience we want to capture, as well as many others, and I see this facility as a way of doing that. It just goes hand in hand with what's there, the water, and when it's very noticeable in the last 2 years without water in that facility, how detrimental that has been, not only for the town of Urannah, but for the communities of Oaklands, Rand, Runda, even visitors as far as, surrounding areas, Albury, Wagga and Mulwala. So I'm certainly in favour of that. I think it's a bit like Ball Park, it's a bit like new swimming pools to try and create tourism. We're not sitting on all assets and hoping that people come, but they don't. We have to change, and we have to change with the times. So we've got to look for opportunities, and I think this is a great opportunity to do that. Thank you. Councillor Longley.
I believe this could be a game changer for Urannah. With the water that we're proposing to put into your shower, the water that we're proposing to put into the lake to hold water in there, this would add value to that. I see this as a potential reproduction of Jerilderie, where their lake has added significant value to their community. I think that it would open up the Urannah society, the community, with accommodation, as Pat said about the researchers coming in. But I really do. I think it's a great game changer, and I can't understand why there'd be any objection to somebody, or why Urannah would be objected to. They pay huge rates out up there. It's all right for us down here to spend money along the river, but at the moment a project gets put up in the north of the Shire, we all start objecting to it, and I don't think that's fair. They're paying absolutely huge rates up there.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. Councillor Whitchurch.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, if I could, and I guess going back to what our fellow Councillor Longmire said in 2011 when they were summoned to a meeting regarding the amalgamation. Obviously I had no involvement with the council, but lived in Cora all my life. The merger created a lot of things that happened. In the last 3 years, or 2.5 years since I've been on this council, as a new merged council, it's bewildered me the further and further we've gone that one person from that whole northern merged shire, being the ex-Urannah Shire, the Mayor Pat Burke, has to sit up there and just all but plead and beg to get anything at Urannah. The water pipe, which was very little amount of money in the scope of the council's budget and income, the aquatic centre, which the townspeople have generated a hell of a lot of money through and have been trying to get this for a long time, had there not been a representative, and I'm not pushing this man's barrow, I'm pushing the person from the northern part of the Shire, that was the only one that got on, and there was no hope of two people getting on out there at that first merger council. We see one person get on and he's got to stand up there and plead and push and all but cry to put his case forward, and then defend himself as the mayor and not try to be biased. I agree with what Councillor Longley said. We spend the money all along the river towns, and yes, they're the biggest centres. The Northern Shire want for very little. And when the townspeople are there saying that they put their own money in, and we see the person sitting in that chair, but from the northern part of the Shire, have to plead and want, I think it's fairly ordinary. I really do. And if there was no ex-Urannah Shire person or northern part of the Shire person on this merged council, I don't think the merger would have been anywhere as near successful as it has been. Because they've got no say. And this guy, or the person that's sitting in that chair, not necessarily Mr Pat Burke, has been the reason that Urannah and the Northern Shires, Oaklands, Rand, Bory Creek, etc., have been remembered and included in the whole scope. I think it's well worth considering what's going on.
Well said. Thank you, Councillor Watson. Councillor Meagle.
Yeah. I'd like to think that if you look at the range of works that have been undertaken in the northern part of the Shire, has done pretty well. I think this council has made an effort to try and be as fair and as equitable over the period of time of distributing funds where they see the greatest need, regardless of the size of the community and regardless of the size of the project. So I take a little bit of front at Councillor Whitechurch's comments. I think we've been far more equitable than he's indicated, and I think we've been working for the good of the whole LGA and not just individual communities.
Councillor Longmire.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I think in reconsidering, as I said earlier in the meeting today, that as an advocate for amalgamation with some council or other councils as well, way back in 2011, the former Corowa Council supported at every opportunity to go forward in an amalgamated way of reforming, and so that's on record. But what got up my nose on the journey, as the mayor at the time that was advocating the opportunity, was leading business people from the Urana community saying that it was a takeover. It was never a word or a language word that I used as the mayor, and was never identified as such. The opportunity, because of the promise of the state government at the time, it was such a great offer, and as I reflected earlier, we can go forward and establish so much infrastructure with their money, which is terrific. And so it's working well. Everybody's assigned to the fact that we wanted to, and they're doing it well. And economically, we're going to stand up right across the state in every facet. In industrial matters and production, farming sector, the whole lot. We're going to stand right up there and match some of those shires over the years ago journey that we weren't able to do it. So we're under the notice of the state government for that reason, which is really good. Can I ask a question, having said that, about the Ulama-Cullarbul Bus Committee? It interests me to understand what that's about. It's an unusual committee that got involved in this project. Is that possible?
Certainly. The Ulama Bus Committee was a committee of families from that Ulama-Cullarbul area that formed a bus committee many years ago to run their own bus to deliver all the children to schools in the area. They were partly government funded, the committee. They were independent. So they saved and rallied and did a lot of voluntary work over the years, and as a result of that, you see the excess of over $500,000 when they dispersed that committee. So then that funds, they decided to put that right throughout the communities. It was spread around the communities to a degree, but most of the membership was from around that Cullarbul area. So they were kind enough to put the money up forward as a suggestion for this aquatic centre building.
You're talking farming families?
Farming families, yeah. Farming.
How far back does it go in history?
I'm guessing about 50 years. Yeah. So it was a massive contribution. And look, I take your points. I was certainly reluctant when merger time. I never denied that, for the reason that it was always going to be hard to get representation on this council, as Councillor Whitechurch has alluded to. As a result, the first election, we got one person on, and so the merger's been great. There's been a lot of money, the state government's funded and pushed a lot of money out to the communities. It has been good. We are left with the problem of representation in the future. And I know strategically it's a long way from one end of this council to the other. So that was definitely one of the concerns at the time. But also it has created a lot of opportunity around the Shire. We've spent millions of dollars in projects. It was so good as a council to be able to get the pool funded and pretty much totally funded. To be looking at Ball Park and all these other precincts, to be able to sit up here at the last council meeting and say, let's put the extra money into that all abilities playground at Mulwala, because it should be done. and deserves it. And so what I'm saying to you, council, is we have those projects too. We have that we're not talking millions of dollars that we're asking this council to put up. We committed to the Lake Urana project, which was unsuccessful with grant funding. So what I'm saying is the interest are down there. There's opportunities to grow down there as well in different ways from up here, which makes this whole council more exciting because they're different environments all over the place. So that's why I would like to council to consider and be favourable towards this project. Thank you, Councillor Longmire. Was there any more?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think what we've got to understand, it's a bit like amalgamating footy clubs. You've got to keep it fair and for it to work. And I mentioned that the other day in the drought meeting about the percentage already in round one, which is the distribution of funding. I think if we keep our mind set on trying to be fair and equal, it'll work.
It has to happen, Councillor Longmire. Councillor Thomas.
We're an amalgamated council, and I personally feel that we've been a very successful amalgamated council in our short term, which we have had a short term, which will be coming up 3 years in September. I was ever so pleased to be part of this amalgamation process. And at the time when we amalgamated, we had to create a brand, and on that brand was our signs. We see those signs right across our shire, and what do they say? Creating opportunity in our communities. Isn't this an opportunity to create that opportunity within a community? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas.
Can I reply?
Councillor Law.
Thank you. I feel like I've been shot down here in flames. But I'd like to say that I have supported the amalgamation. I have supported the northern area of the Shire, always. I voted for the things that have happened in the northern area of the Shire. My concern is the size of this facility and the effect that it is going to have on Urana's bowling club. It's a concern for the people of Urana and the facilities that they already have and they work very hard for. I know that there needs to be a facility there and I like the idea of what's going on, but my concern is the size and the way that it is to be decked out. There's some very fancy fittings in there and I just worry about the things like that. I care for Urana, I care for Oaklands, I care for the northern part of this Shire. I have a lot of friends out there and that's why I voted for the things that I think are right. But I have the concern of the size of this building and what is going to happen to the bowling club.
Thank you, Councillor Law, and we did get a little bit mixed up with mergers and projects, but I don't think you've been shot down. I think you have your very valid points, and as I pointed out, my concerns are to maintaining those facilities in the future. So that's why I want to bring on new interest in more tourism attractions, etc. Anything further, councillors? We have a recommendation there that the council note the report. No, sorry, deferred to
for the tender. Yeah, for the tender assessment.
Okay, for the tender assessment. So I've got a mover and a seconder there, councillors. If there's no further comments, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Engineering.
Oh, sorry.
10-1.
10-1. I've just lost my place there. That was a healthy debate. So, Director of Engineering Services report. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 10.1 is just to get the report I do each month on the progress of the works program. Just a little side issue I did do a trip up north yesterday afternoon, just north of Urana. If anybody's going up there at the moment, probably really a full-on construction program. I think I've got 3 crews, one behind the other, and you just get out of one lot of roadworks, you're into the next, and out of that you're into the third one. So very pleasing to see, and the Federation Way is coming ahead in leaps and bounds, which is good. And again, it gets back to what some of the councils have alluded to, the additional funding we're getting. That funding we're getting from the last section of Fed Way up to Miranda is a grant of just on $5 million. So very, very welcome, which a few years ago were unheard of in these sort of size councils. So hopefully they'll get generous when the next round comes out.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments on that one, councillors? If Councillor Meagle.
It's just good to see that $5 million being spent in the northern part of the Shire, Mr Mayor.
It is, Councillor Meagle. And note that Federation Way starts from the south and runs right up to the north. It's a
Where the name goes.
unified road.
Exactly.
Terrific.
And by that point, that's another issue we need to talk about at some stage, because rural addressing on that road can have 3 addresses with the same address,
Right.
because there are 3 separate sections of roadway on Fed Way, so that's something I'm thinking about putting a report to council very shortly.
Thank you. Yeah, nothing further, councillors. If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against carried.
Item 10.2 is to do with the capital works, again just a report on progress. Makes it glad that some of them have got completed recycling, which is good to see. We are getting through the, it's been very hectic, but we are getting through the works program at a reasonable rate.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against carried.
And 10.3, when this computer decides to move, it doesn't matter at the moment, is to do with the, it's disappeared altogether.
Stronger country
Stronger, the communities. Some reason, yes, doesn't want to work particularly. Yeah, 10.3 is just on the Stronger Community Funding, USSCF Works for January. Again, that's for notation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? Councillor Meagle.
Yeah, just a quick one. Just if you look through those projects and you look at the diversity of where all those projects are, they are spread right across the Shire, which is pleasing to see.
Any further? Councillor Longley.
The flood study program, where are we up to with that? How long? Moala, how long?
Any comments or would you like to?
Oh, that's you, is it?
That's
Sorry.
me, yes.
Oh, sorry.
So for the Howlong, Corowa and Moala flood study, we're going out for the community representatives. That'll be happening in the next week. I've got a meeting with Steve Manwaring, who will be our regional contact for, I don't even know what department he works for now, he used to be Office of Environment and Heritage. And we'll be going out with a brief of the tender. We have to have the first meeting by the end of April.
Could I just make a suggestion that, particularly in Howlong and I guess Moala, that flood study be vital for the LEP, understanding where the water's going and where it shouldn't be.
All flood studies are vital for the LEP. It defines your flood planning area.
Yes.
That gets mapped and also defined as part of the borders.
So we're putting the cart before the horse?
No, we'll be able to do that as an amendment. So you'll still have your standard flood planning controls in the LEP. It will have more of an impact on the development control plan.
Thank you. Nothing further, councillors. I'll put that one. All in favour? Against carried.
All right, item 10.4 is quotation assessment report for road stabilisation in the form of foam bitumen. Foam bitumen is a process that we haven't used in this council before. There are 3 projects we're looking at using it on. One is for RMS, or they're not RMS anymore. Transport, they are now Transport for New South Wales after formerly being DMR and RTA and RMS. And that is to redo the bridge from the new Federation Bridge, the road from the Federation Bridge back to the Tim Fisher Bridge. That has never been 100% since the day it opened, so that is the looking at foam bitumen for that particular process. We're looking at using it on the Daysdale Curve, where the Corrine Creek will ultimately, in a major flood, still go across the road there. And we're also considering using it up at Widgewaw, up north of Urana, where the S-bends are north between Widgewaw Homestead and Widgewaw Woolshed. So we have a panel of people that we use for stabilisation. There's 4 companies on that panel, and we went to the 4 companies and asked them for quotes. Two of them came back. One actually gave us a price, the other one came back and said they were too busy, and the other two said they were unable to quote because it is a very specialised field. It's one that's not used all that often. So, and the recommendation there is that it be referred to closed council.
So moved. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? Councillor Meagle.
Just one, Mr Mayor, I had the good fortune to spend some time with our operations manager in the car driving through those projects last week and got some further information on this newfangled foam bitumen stuff. So it sounds like a really interesting product, and it'll be interesting to see how they go, because there are three different projects requiring the same type of material, so it'll be very fortunate, but happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you. And can I have a councillor move to suspend? Thank you, Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. We'll have a cup of
Morning
coffee.
tea.
Morning tea.
Sorry.